Is there a prompt? There are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
7-footers gang, what is going on? Episode 82, you know who it is. Jenna and Jarod here to chop it up about the NBA playoffs. Jarod, how you doing over there?
I'm good, man. We're in the conference finals. You know, it's we're about halfway through. Things are heating up, right? I mean, teams got a chance to take commanding leads, or the other teams can get themselves right back in it, and make these things interesting.
Right? What a time to be alive.
I mean, we could say, given COVID and everything else and what's going on in the news, probably a poor time to be alive, but all
Yes.
things being equal, I got what you mean.
I hear you. I know you do. I could literally say like gibberish and you'd be like, guys, this is exactly what she means. And I'd be like, oh, he knows. See? All right. Let's jump into it here because we are getting down to the NBA Finals. But first, we got to go through a couple motions here. So let's talk about the Lakers and Nuggets series. Okay, the Lakers lead 2-1. Okay, the Nuggets got themselves a game the other night with Jamal Murray having an epic, big game time shot. And is it enough, or was this kind of a Hail Mary win, we'll let you have it so we don't embarrass you kind of thing?
Well, look, I mean, the Nuggets are good, right? I mean, they're an excellent offensive team. Jokic is the best big man in basketball, and Jamal Murray is quickly becoming one of the best guards in the game. I mean, their two-man game, we've talked about it before, is incredible, and they are legit. They are an excellent offensive team. They're young. We talked about this last week, and they're cohesive as a unit, right? We talked about what allowed them to be together and beat the Clippers was that connection and cohesiveness, right? Murray, Jokic, Gary Harris, and Will Barton, again, have been teammates since the 2016-2017 season. So those guys know each other. They've gone through the growing pains, and now as they get to the big stage, they're proving they belong.
100%. And I love that Coach Mike Malone is on the same wavelength with his team. He's cracking jokes in the post game after this big win and helping them survive against the Lakers. He said, for some reason, we love this bubble. And that seems to be the truth with the Nuggets, which is just interesting compared to how other teams have performed poorly in the bubble. So the Nuggets here, we have a team that is resilient, and it's an incredible narrative. You know, I love a good narrative. And they're just great. I mean, this young star in Jamal Murray, he dropped 28 points, 12 assists. He had 2 late three-pointers late in the game. And to get them that win, 114-106, is Jamal Murray unstoppable? Can he make this move and get them to tie this series in the next game?
Well, look, I mean, no one's unstoppable. Well, there are a few guys who are unguardable, right? Unguardable and unstoppable are two slightly different things, right, definition-wise. He's not unstoppable, but when he is going like he's going, again, with Jokic, that's a tough two-man combo to stop. And the thing about Murray is he's gotten himself better during that time that the NBA was on hiatus when the first positive COVID test was announced. You know, he put on the muscle, right? So he's able to come into the lane, finish strong. And not only that, his floater game, his mid-range, I mean, he can score from all 3 levels. And, I was talking about that. That's what makes a player dangerous. When you can score from all 3 levels on the court, that being beyond the three-point line, in the mid-range, and in the paint, that makes you very tough to guard, right? Because I can hit you from anywhere. And he's really stepped himself up. He was a number 7 pick, so he was a high lottery. He came with a lot of fanfare. And, as with many players in the league, you go through growing pains, right? It's very rare you come into this league and you dominate from day one, right? That's only for the best of the best, right? Everybody else got to work and get themselves together. And it looks like Murray has really found his groove. You know what I find interesting? I got a question for you. Given what we've seen from Jamal Murray all this postseason, if if you had to choose either Jamal Murray or Russell Westbrook to be on your team in the playoffs as your lead guard, who would you choose? I know who I choose.
I know who I'm going to choose. I actually do. I don't even have to think about it. I thought this question was going to be hard until you said in the postseason. So.
Shots fired.
I'm sorry. Let's call a spade a spade. That doesn't take away from his grit and his competitiveness, but Russell Westbrook, unfortunately, has proved time and time again that he has a serious issue with performing in the postseason. I mean, the writing is on the wall. Roll the tapes.
Yeah, I mean,
right now.
I mean, I agree with you. It's an easy choice for me. The big thing too is that, you know, and I don't want to it's not about slamming Russ. I want to talk about this idea, because the all NBA teams were announced and we talked about them last week, and Russ made third team, and that's a regular season award, and I get all that, and a lot of that's reputation. But I'm looking going forward as to where they are in their careers. It's got to be Jamal Murray, right? I mean, again, he can score from all three levels. Russ can't shoot, right? I mean, just not well anyway, right? And we know Murray can do that, again, in the mid-range, from behind the arc, can get to the rim. Yeah, he's not as good an athlete as Westbrook is, clearly, but guess what? He can do all that, and he's a better playmaker than Russ is. And I think, look, that stuff matters. I was also thinking about that in regards to who would I want, Russ or Donovan Mitchell. And I think I'd want Donovan Mitchell also. Same idea, right?
Yeah.
A guy, and again, it's not about crapping on Russ. It's more about these young guards in the Western Conference. Obviously, Jamal Murray's still going on, playing in this conference finals. You know, these guys are the future, man, of the league, and I like what I'm seeing.
I 100% agree, and to that, by the way, I would still take Donovan too. I feel like him and Jamal are so similar, but I have a question for you now concerning the same thing, really. Right now in the NBA, is Jamal Murray in your top 5 point guard selection?
Overall, or just right now, who's playing in the bubble?
We gotta do really, I guess, recent and who's playing in the bubble, just because this is Jamal Murray's first kind of breakout season.
Yeah.
So yeah, would he really be in your top 5 right now,
point
or
guards?
top 3 if we have to narrow it down?
Top 5 for sure. I mean, he's up right now. I mean, look, if we're talking about the bubble this postseason, yes, because guess what? His team is still playing in the conference finals now. Nikola Jokic is a huge part of that as well. But again, let's not act like Murray hasn't done his part. He's done it. We talked about game 3 against the Lakers, those huge shots he hit. And he is not afraid of the moment. And that stuff matters, right? The temerity to take the shot, but also he's not wild and out of control with it, right? He's able to get into the lane, get the shots that he wants, create for others, draw a kick. I mean, he's an excellent young player. But I'd say, yeah, if you're talking about players in the bubble right now in this postseason, top 5 point guard for sure. Now, are we going to see this? Am I going to put him in the top 5 point guards overall, all NBA? Probably not. But you know what? Let me look at some stuff. Hey, Steph Curry, okay. Kyrie, okay. I mean, we got a couple of guys, but how many dudes you taking over him, right? I mean, you know I love James Harden. We love James Harden on this podcast. And James Harden's really a lead guard, not much of a point guard. But, I mean, just based on this postseason alone, who you want, Harden or Jamal Murray? And again, I know, small sample size, but hey, it's what it is, in the sense that he is performing on the biggest stages.
Very true, very true. And let's talk about performing interestingly on the big stage. I want to talk about Dwight Howard. And his antics, per se. I see that you have written here in our show lineup, and that's the correct word for it. His antics. What's going on? He's nearly ejected for some type of language, and then this and that. He's already got a tech on him. What's the weigh in on Dwight?
So Dwight's actually playing well. I want to be clear about that. He's actually playing well.
Yes.
What he's doing is the last game or so, he's been a little bit over the edge and is fouling a lot, right? he needs to rein it in just a little and play right up to that edge. It's like Draymond Green, right? What makes Draymond so good is he can get right up to that edge of explosion, but not explode, right? That edge allows him to be who he is and be what he is for the Warriors, right? That's what the Lakers need from Dwight, particularly in this series as he matches up against Jokic, right? I've already said Jokic, best big man in the game. Dwight Howard, obviously out of his prime, but Dwight's still a very big, athletic, strong guy. And he can bother Jokic. And that's what we need him to do is, if you're a Lakers fan, is be physical with Jokic, bug him, get up under his skin a little bit, right? Make things tough on him. It's like that whole thing about unguardable and unstoppable, right? Jokic isn't unstoppable, right? He can be unguardable at times. But like any great player, you know they're going to get theirs. The way you win in that matchup is you make it difficult for them to get theirs. They're going to get it regardless, but you want to make them inefficient and you want to make it tougher for them to get it, right? Because in the postseason, they're eating up more possessions, right? And that means in a game where the margins are thin, it matters if Dwight can get, 3 possessions out of Jokic where he's like super inefficient or he turns the ball over, or right? Those things cumulatively matter at the end of a game when the score and things are in the balance and delicate.
Right. And the thing with the Lakers here is they need Dwight. And like you said, Dwight's playing well. He actually replaced JaVale McGee in the second half at the center position. So clearly Frank Vogel, head coach, likes what he's doing. So it's not so much about the play, but it's just with the exaggeration, I guess, that comes with it, which I love that he's a vibrant player and that he's in your face and this and that, but he just needs a little bit of a better focus.
Just don't go over the line. Come right up to the line. Don't go over it.
Right. If they want to really excel here and get a chip. And the thing is, he can be a huge, massive contributor to shutting down Jokic if he can just get up on him, figure
be physical.
it out, so they can get the stops that they need and the necessary things to win games without trouble here. So, or not without as much trouble. So let's talk about a little bit of the younger guys going on here. Kuzma and MPJ, your guy, Michael Porter Jr. Let's talk about this matchup here because it's fun, it's exciting, and we know what Kuzma can do, but now we're getting to see what Michael Porter Jr. can do after a long time of sitting out and trials and tribulations of injury and things like that sort. So talk to me about this matchup here. What are the similarities you see in their games, and if there are any, and what's kind of the most exciting part about that?
Someone I know dubbed this the matchup of the light-skinned pretty boys, right? Michael Porter Jr. and Kyle Kuzma.
Is that the internet or is someone? No.
That's someone I know. And so, look, they're tall guys who can shoot it, right? Michael Porter Jr. I think's got a super high ceiling. I will say this: if you're the Lakers, you have to be concerned because you are losing the minutes that Kyle Kuzma is competing against Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. is outplaying Kyle Kuzma, and that's a problem if you're the Lakers because Kyle Kuzma was supposed to be that reliable number 3 guy, and he ain't that right now. And that's a problem if you're the Lakers. Michael Porter Jr. is giving his team energy off the bench. He's giving him size, getting him rebounds. He's hitting shots at a better rate than Kyle Kuzma is right now. Mr. All Drip, and I know he'll come up later in our show in the gossip segment. Kuz has just got to play better if the Lakers are going to win. Because look, make no mistake about this. I said Lakers in 6, but look, it's 2-1 right now. Like if the Nuggets win Game 4 and it's 2-2, I mean anything could happen now, right? I mean, sure, Lakers could win 2 in a row and go, but it could go 7 games. And if it goes 7 games, anything can happen in Game 7. Literally anything, right? Because by definition, it's the series is even, right? The teams are evenly matched. Anything can go down. And so, and again, we talked about this. This Nuggets team is not afraid. And you can see when they play, and it's evidence in the way that Porter Jr. plays, right? Like, he comes off the bench, like, he had a couple strips on LeBron, like a couple good defensive plays, which we know defense is not his calling card right now, but doing a couple things where, like, on the stage, he's not afraid. And Kuzma, late in game 3, had a couple skittish plays where didn't shoot the ball when he was wide open, threw the ball away on a pass to Rondo. Like, and again, when we talk about margins being thin, 2 wasted possessions could be the ball game, right? And so it's tight right now. MPJ getting the better of Kuzma in that matchup.
I couldn't agree more with that, because as we've been seeing by the numbers and just what we're seeing in front of our face on the TV screen here, MPJ is just doing it. He's checking the boxes right now, and he's doing his job. And Kuzma's a little bit lackluster. He's kind of getting lost in the shuffle in this series, and that's a problem, because at
You're
one
a Laker
point,
fan, it is.
Right. And at one point he was in the conversation for, who's that number 3 guy? Right now we're kind of saying it's Rondo, but really when Rondo was out with injury, it was kind of Kuzma on the ins and outs. I mean, it was always a rotating chair, but he was kind of warming it up for a while. So yeah, he needs to step it up. That's it. And before we get to his teammate LeBron James, because I guess you have things to say, let's talk about another young duo that I love, that are on their way to stardom. They're on the same team, unlike the last matchup we just talked about. I'm talking about Murray and Jokic. This young duo has become so lethal. They're fast track to stardom, and their seemingly never-ending journey to a championship is really remarkable. So let's talk about this relationship here, because from stories we've heard in post-game interviews and different things like that, these two have quite the relationship, and they're very close, and that's something you need in a duo that's going to try to bring you a chip. So talk to me about this relationship on the court.
Well, we talked about it a little bit last week, right? Again, being teammates since 2016, 2017, that matters, right? They know each other from a basketball perspective. Also, from a basketball perspective, they complement one another. Jokic is the best passing big man in the game, right? So when he initiates the offense and Murray's off ball, Murray can cut, get open, right, dive to the rim, and Jokic is going to find him. When they play their pick and roll 2-man game, it's deadly, right? Because Jokic can hit that 28-footer, that 3-pointer, right? Like, there's so many different things they do. They play so well off one another, and know when you're playing pick and roll, so much of that is a dance, right? Knowing exactly when to start, when to come off, when to pull back, right? And that's again from years of repetition, from working with one another, and they know where the other one's going to be at all times, and each one knows when the other one is going, how to play off of that, right? And not just stand around in the corner and wait, right? How to do something that's going to help facilitate that other player's success even more, right? That's the hallmark of a excellent championship type of duo. Now, we got a long way to go before they get there yet, right? But Jokic has been all NBA. He's been an all-star, right? Now the next step is for Murray to get that kind of regular season adulation. He's showing that he has the game in the bubble. All it's going to take is for when next regular season resumes, he does this for a full season. Now he's the one getting all-star accolades, all-NBA potential credibility, right? That's what, that's just the hardware pieces, the recognition it's missing. But there's no doubt from a basketball standpoint, these two fit well together. And if Michael Porter Jr. develops the way that we all think, if he's able to reach his ceiling, that is a hell of a three-man, a big three, right? A la reminiscent of, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. Not in terms of like similarity of play, but in terms of 3 homegrown, drafted young guys who have high-level potential. Now, I'm not saying all 3 of those guys are going to win MVPs. I'm just saying the ability of a team to draft that kind of high-caliber talent, can you keep it together, and can they all develop and reach their ceilings? So if they do, the future is so bright in Denver.
Oh, hell yes. And they can only go up from here, or so it seems, with their young duo, and the possibilities are endless. So I'm excited to see the growth there. I really like the coaching in Mike Malone. So love Denver. Love Denver. Never thought I'd say that. Let's talk about an obvious love of mine, LeBron James's game. Not LeBron James, but his game. Okay. But you have, unfortunately, a question here. What's up? What's going on with LeBron? I always vow to tell my king when he is flawed. And right now, he is playing a little timid for himself.
Well,
what's going on with LeBron here? Is this a little quick slump before he comes back and dominates and then shoves it all down our throat?
I mean, here's what I'll say. He's still LeBron James, right? He had a triple or almost near triple-double in Game 3. But that's one of the things where counting stats can tell you one thing, but your eyeballs, when you watch the game, tell you something different. And here's the reality. He's still, if not everybody being healthy, maybe Kevin Durant is, whatever. If worst case, second best player in the world, number one, whatever. The gap, though, that he used to maybe have is not as wide as it once was, right? And the reality is that he's 35. Like, they say that Father Time is undefeated for a reason. It's nature eventually catches up, and you can no longer do what you once did. And you can see it in moments, right? He's getting the ball stripped from him by players who I would never say could do that to him. He falling down on offense when he has the ball, and I'm like, bro, what's going on with you right now? The inability to close out and rotate quick. Again, this is a person who's been in the NBA since he was 18 years old and has been having deep championship runs literally every year of his career but like 2, right? So there's a lot of miles, a lot of wear and tear on that body. Yes, he also puts a lot of time and resources into his body, which is why he's able to play this well at this age. But it's still going to slow down at some point, right? Like, that's just the nature. You're going to slow at some point. And we're seeing it in moments. And that's why it's so important guys like Anthony Davis and Kuzma and Rondo and their supporting cast are more consistent, because he's not going to always be able to bail them out when things aren't going well, right? It's when you're great, his mind and his clarity for the game is better than it's ever been. He knows exactly where he has to be, how to do what he has to do every single time and in every situation. There is nothing that confuses or flummoxes him. Nothing. The issue as you get older is your mind knows what to do. Can my body do what I need it to do? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And again, and it's kind of a cruel joke, right? In that way, in that when you're in your 20s, that's when you're at your physical peak, but your mind ain't quite there yet. When you're in your mid 30s, your mind is at its physical peak basketball wise, but your body ain't there. It's a cruel irony, right? It's like, damn it, like, why can't they both be melded together for a lengthy period of time? And that's just how life works in that way when you play professional sports. And so that's the big thing, right? Is that he has more of those I look 35-year-old days than he has on the guy who can score 28 points straight in 6 minutes. Like, it's just those days are harder to come by than more of the immortal days we're seeing now, which is why it's incumbent on someone like Anthony Davis. Yo, my dude, you can't be having 2 rebound games. Like, what is that? Like, I don't even know what that is. You got to recognize, like, I've got to be the best guy on the floor. Like, you got to take that and own that and be like, all right, LeBron's having a 35-year-old day. All right, I got to be Anthony Davis today. Like, and they'll figure that out, but that's the one area I think they're struggling with. And again, Denver's young, man. So playing every other day, not really bothering Denver so much, bothering LeBron and the Lakers. LeBron could have used that 2-day break that the Eastern Conference series got, as opposed to every other day. And again, people don't think it's a big deal, but it's the cumulative miles on the body that look, at some point he's going to not be as good. Like, it's just, that's how it works. You can't play this way forever. Like, it stops at some point. And so I'm not saying it's stopping now. I'm not saying he can't go on a run for the next 3 games and go ham. He can, but it's like a gas tank, right? And unlike when you have your car and you can't fill it back up to empty, ain't no filling it back up. When it's out, it's out. Right? So that's all. So that's my only point about it. I think he's still doing well. Obviously, still putting up good numbers, but you can see it in certain moments where it's like, bro, like, he don't got it right now for this like 5-minute stretch. And his usual, like, I will rest for the first half or whatever, or do this and play if the rest of those guys aren't playing well, as we saw in game 3, he can't do that, because then the Lakers are in a big hole, and now they got to spend all game trying to get themselves out of that hole. So again, these are the little sort of things that it's like, okay, we're seeing what's happening here, which is also why he knows this is the title that I have to win, because I ain't gonna have many more chances after this to do this again.
Right. Yeah, he definitely knows that this is the one that he's gotta really get, because, like you said, Father Time is undefeated. Gosh, I hate to say that when it's in the same sentence as LeBron James. But, it's bittersweet. We, as LeBron James fans, especially since he is so good at being a celebrity, we feel close to him. We feel like we know him. He is the mega peak Michael Jordan of my era. You know what I mean? So that one's a hard one to let go of. But before I start to cry, because I just put my mascara on, I do have to say, you just had me cracking up. That was a really good monologue of yours. I actually was dying when you said, Anthony Davis, you can't get 2 boards a night. What is that? I don't even know what that is. That one I memorized. It was too good. Clearly, AD needs to, step it up on those types of stat pulling nights, which are not good whatsoever.
Yeah, someone like him should never only have 2 rebounds. So,
A to the men. Men, it's raining men.
All right, moving on.
That just came in my head. We'll wait for the gossip segment. But let's talk about the battle in the East that just got a little bit closer when the Celtics took their anger from the locker room and spun it into a win. And now the series is 2-1. And, the Celtics love to, get a lead. But this time they finished the job.
Mm-hmm.
Should Miami be sweating a bit, or was this the Celtics kind of airing out the anger? And if you guys if you haven't been following the series, goodbye. But if you haven't, they got angry the other night after their loss, and Marcus Smart was one of many that were kind of going back and forth. XYZ, anger is tempers flowing in the locker room. But anyway, should Miami be afraid here, or was this kind of just letting off some steam?
No, look, I think that. And just so our listeners know, when this pod comes out, game 4 is actually taking place tonight. So the series will either be 2-2 or 3-1 by the time you listen to this podcast. Look, I think Miami the Celtics are who they are, and I said this: they're the more talented team, right? The Celtics have more talented guys: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, right? Marcus Smart. They have more talent than the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat have a cohesiveness and a togetherness, I'm not saying the Celtics don't, that is so interesting and fascinating. I think, look, the Celtics really sort of got out to a big lead and were able to do what they do. I think in this series, the Celtics are more likely going to be the team that can blow out the Heat, right? When the Heat win their games, it ain't going to be blowouts, all right? They're going to win close games. Because the Heat don't have the necessary firepower to blow out the Celtics. Unless it's just a terrible night shooting for the Celtics and they can't buy a bucket, right? And of course, part of that will be due to Miami's defense. But there's just too many weapons on Boston. Look, I said this series was going to go 7. I said Heat in 7. So, I mean, Celtics can win tonight and then it's 2-2. And then, hey, now it's best out of 3, right? Who can get to 4 first in the remaining 3 games? And so anything can happen. I think if I was the Celtics, the one thing I'd be a little concerned with is you had that big lead in game 3 and, the Heat kind of made a run late. And Duncan Robinson made both free throws. instead of only one of two, well, that's a 3-point game now. And now things are looking vastly different. And so one thing we know about the Heat, about any team that's left in the Final Four here, no one's going to quit until it's literally like 0-0 and the game's over. Every team's going to battle hard no matter what the score is. And Miami really embodies that. I thought the Celtics were better against the zone. They cut harder. They played with more force. Jaylen Brown was all over the place. They're just, again, when they all play to their level and their talent, they're tough to beat because they are just more talented, right? Like, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are better than Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Like, that's just, they just are, right? Like, there's no shade to Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Those are good players, but like, they just are. Kemba Walker's better than Goran Dragic, right? Like, it just is what it is. Now, for the Heat, of course, they have Jimmy Butler, who's the X factor. But again, while Jimmy is excellent at so many things, for 6, 7, 8 straight possessions, get me a bucket, that may not be the best way to use Jimmy. Sure, he can get hot and do some things, but that isn't really the strength of his game. It's sort of doing everything in addition to scoring, and that energy is what allows him to be so good and gives the other guys confidence to be good. So yeah, this is a great series. I mean, we're so lucky. I mean, both of these conference finals, I think, are outstanding.
Oh, absolutely. The competitiveness is what I love the most about it. I mean, just to see the Miami Heat and the grit that they have, along with the Denver Nuggets, who are really on an uphill battle mentally, physically, the whole world is basically doubting them, and they are just performing on the highest level. And like I keep repeating, in the young duo that they have. But anyway, back to the East, because we got to talk about this a little bit here. You have a great point, and I think people need to understand this when you say the Celtics are the more talented team. They are. The individual pieces that they have, in Brown, Walker, Jason Tatum has been on fire. It's unstoppable sometimes. But the thing with the Miami Heat is that I noticed right off the bat when I check any type of box score or anything, is that all of their, or if not most of their rotation here is contributing. Yes, Jimmy is the best player on the floor in a Miami Heat jersey. However, Bam Adebayo, he's dropping 27 in the last game. Tyler Hero scored 22, and Duncan Robinson had a nice chunk of points too. The role players are role playing very well, and they're stepping up on the big stage. And I think it says a lot about Miami, despite the loss.
And let's be clear, right? Bam and Jimmy are all-stars, right? So, I mean, they're good, right? Like, so this is not shade to Bam. Bam's incredible.
Right.
And they're playing well. And for the Miami Heat to continue, they know it's a collective for them. But in that collective, Jimmy and Bam are going to have to be at their all-star levels, right? On both ends of the floor. That's what makes them so good, offensively and defensively. But again, in the playoffs, as you get later in the rounds, conference finals, NBA finals, the team that generally wins is the team that has the most dudes who can create their own shot and a shot for other people, right? Because when defenses get so good and all your off-ball fancy action backdoors ain't working, I need a guy who can break down the D when it collapses, has the ability to pass and find an open player, right, and create something for someone. The more of those guys you have, the better chances you have of winning the title, right? And so Jimmy's going to have to do that at a high level. Hero's going to have to do that at a high level. Duncan Robinson, and mind you, Hero and Duncan Robinson are young players. Bam is going to have to start. I mean, this is a lot to ask, right? Whereas, again, Kemba, Tatum, Brown to an extent, right? Marcus Smart. You've got some guys who can do things a little bit more. Again, I think it's going to go 7 because I think, again, what Miami Heat can do defensively and the way they play their zone, and they didn't play with the same force that the Celtics did in Game 3, right? And so, for most of the game. So, if they come out with the Heat type of energy and do what they do, look, they can go up 3-1, and then who knows, right? Hey, Celtics feeling all the pressure. They got to win 3 in a row now, but the Denver Nuggets did it twice. So it's very possible, right? I just think that, again, when you really look at it, each individual game, it's these margins get really thin, and it's a little thing here or there that you got to watch and be like, okay, who's doing what? And so for the Heat, I'm watching those others. I'm watching Tyler and Duncan and those guys, like, are they? And is Goran gonna have a bounce back game because he wasn't great in Game 3, right? And then for the Celtics, is Kemba Walker gonna break out of his shooting slump? You know, those different kinds of things. So it's a hell of a series, man. And obviously Spoelstra and Brad are outstanding coaches. Don't be, expect a wrinkle or two from either coach.
I love that. Wrinkle. So I do love this matchup so much because I do believe it's going to go 7 easy because you just really never know. Like you say, the margins are thin. These two teams are so similar yet so different in many ways. I love what I see. They're two young teams too, which is so exciting because, as you always say, these guys are the future of the league. We're getting to see tidbits of the beginning of their journey, and it's going to be really nice when we see, after all this generation of LeBron and everybody is gone, to see what these guys are putting out there. So
and let me not forget Gordon Hayward. I mean, him coming back was a huge boost for the Celtics as well. Yeah. The box score didn't look great, but that's an additional player who can do what? Create his own shot and create shots for other people, right? Like, the more of those guys you have, you don't have wasted empty minutes where your one guy has to play so many because I got nobody else who can create a shot out here, right? And that, back to the Lakers series, is kind of what they're struggling with a bit, right? Who else besides LeBron can really get his own and create for somebody else? That's a challenge.
Very true. Hayward is a great addition and not a seat filler when it comes to
no doubt.
So, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Miami Heat, but we'll see if they can compete. So let's talk about this now. Who's going to win? Game 4?
Game 4, I think, man, I think it's going to be a tight game. I really do. I think, man, there's something about this Heat team. I think they pull out tonight, go up 3-1, but again, the series isn't over because I just, again, Boston's too talented. I can see them coming back and winning the next two to force this into Game 7. So, it's going to be a tight game. I'll say that. Very tight game tonight. That's what I see.
I like it. Well, we'll be tuning into this live after this. So we'll on the 83rd pod. So let's move into our new gossip segment with yours truly. Me. Anyway. Let's jump into it because we still got, the same relationships rumbling down in the bubble. We got Winnie Harlow, Kuzma's girlfriend, down there, as I had to explain to Jarod who she was. But as most of you would know, she is a fashionista, to say the least. She's a supermodel. She's walked the Victoria's Secret runway. She's covered countless national, international magazines. She needs no introduction, although I just gave her one. But she is still down there with her boy Kuz, so we believe. At least last week she was there because they were wearing matching outfits and taking post photos.
Oh, Lord.
My question is, you have to have LeBron James walking by after a haircut at the Sims barbershop and he sees them and he sees them posing for photos. I mean, I just have so many questions.
Yeah, LeBron gonna kick her out of the bubble. Maybe if she wasn't there, Kuz would be playing a lot better.
You know what? He's probably sent him down like, my boy. Kuz. We need to talk about this little girlfriend situation you got going on here. I'm just here to say they're cute. We like to have fun with this segment, and it's just something to take y'all casual NBA fans.
Give you. Well, what's so interesting about that, right? Look, it's the bubble. You need some companionship, shall we say? But it's also like, what's that balance between companionship and getting distracted versus, we here for a job and the task at hand. Now, for some guys, maybe that helps them, right? Helps relieve some stress. However they go about doing that. Maybe for other guys, it might distract them totally, and they wildin' and they ain't thinking about their rotation and their assignments when they out on the floor. I mean, again, Kuz, what's up, my guy? Wasn't looking so good in Game 3. Maybe Winnie needs to take a little backseat. I don't know.
Oh my God, you crack me up. I love when you step into my entertainment world.
No, look, it's funny. It's all jokes, and like we want guys to have a good time down there. Not be like, not be like Daniel House and bringing COVID testers into your room and getting kicked out. But that's neither here nor there.
I would like to thank Daniel House for specifically being one of the catalysts as to why we need to have this segment for people like him, because we need to let them know you got to keep your mentals right and eye on the prize while you're in the bubble. I mean,
well, clearly he and the Rockets did not have their eye on the prize, but is what it is. Or maybe he had his eye on a different prize.
Well, I'm starting to get upper lip sweat. Okay. We need to address my people.
Which
My
people are
people
those?
is in my close friends, aka they don't know this, that they're friends with me, but Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, the spaghetti to my meatballs, the peanut butter to my jelly. The three of us are best friends.
Yeah, except they don't know that, but it's okay.
They don't know that. But if little tip to the followers at home, if you scroll down my Instagram and see the photos of me and Gabby on a night out in Chicago, you'll know. And follow me. So anyway, Dwayne Wade and Gab, on a real note, I mean, this is incredible to say the least. They celebrated their, quote, wildly inspiring transgender daughter, Zaya Wade, after they were selected as part of Time Magazine's 100, just 100 in the world, most influential people of 2020 list. That's incredible. A husband and wife, which is a rare occasion to make the Time 100 list. I mean, take away the game, take away the movies, and these two have an illustrious resumes that
no doubt.
that have truly made a difference in the world. And I started with Zaya because she's a big reason why they've started such a huge platform of importance and education on things such as the transgender world and what goes on and the struggles that trans individuals face and things like that. So we gotta just give a good kudos.
Oh, no
to
doubt.
our friend.
Kudos to Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. Time 100's a hell of an honor. They joined some incredible, illustrious honorees over the past few years that have been lucky enough to receive that award. And they're the example of people that use their platform for the greater good, right? Like I always say on this show, collectively and doing things for one another is how we live as a better society and the society we want to live in. And Dwayne and Gabrielle do that, and they utilize their platform and their resources to aid others and to bring awareness to important issues. And I think it's a wonderful thing to see. So again, kudos to them.
Really, truly kudos to them. And I'll just be sure to let my friends know that you I can't stop laughing at my own jokes lately. It's getting very pathetic. Really quick before I do wrap this segment, I do want to throw you a little curveball that we didn't chat pre-show. This is an update on couples outside the bubble.
Okay.
Our non-friends, Kendall Jenner and Devin Booker.
What are they doing?
Well, things have been a little quiet on the Western Front, as they say in some movie that my dad always quotes, or song. It's the truth.
All quiet on the Western Front. Yes, I'm well aware.
Exactly. He's going to be so proud and probably freak out on Instagram when he sees this. But anyway, Devin and Kendall, they haven't been seen together in about 2 weeks, which is fine in celebrity awesome world. But the last time they were spotted was at in Malibu having dinner, probably at Nobu. You know how that goes in the famous world. But that was 2 weeks ago. Scratch that, doesn't matter, because there's a new report, Jarod, that they're, quote, not serious and that they're just hooking up.
Oh, so it was just a boo thing.
Like, we read this story a million times. We read it, okay? And it's crazy. I mean, now, this isn't the only report out there. There's other reports at the same time saying that they're getting married next week, so you never know. But
I mean, look, they're young. Book, they're too young to settle down. Book, let's listen. Y'all want to do y'all thing, have a good time. All good. Just keep it safe out there in these streets. We don't need no problems. But they want to be young and casual. Be young and casual. Just keep it safe out there.
Father Jarod, give the kids what they need to know.
Well, because you know,
Slap it down.
well, because you know, your man Book ain't always so careful, and I'll just leave it at that.
Oh. And that is the end of the gossip segment.
Yes, please. Let's get out of there before we get ourselves in trouble.
Please, before we get ourselves in trouble. Sometimes I feel so tabloidy when I do it, but it's funny. It's a little lighthearted kind of thing. No shades to the players. We love them, literally. The players and the players. And so,
A lot of players.
right? You know what's up. We'll talk off camera about that one. But last but certainly not least, we have somebody to give a big congrats to, and that is Billy Donovan, because he is the new head coach of the Chicago Bulls. Do we love the choice, Jarod?
Look, the Bulls have a new regime, right? So they need to sort of change over and figure out what direction they're going to want to go in. This is a good move for Chicago in the sense that you have an adult as head coach now. No more Jim Boylan threatening players to fistfights or whatever nonsense was going on with him over there. Excuse me. So, you know, thank you. So, you know, I think this is a good move. Billy's an adult and a professional, and he's going to run a well-structured program there. Maybe he gets some good stuff out of Wendell Carter Jr. I don't know about Zach LaVine. We'll see. Lauri Markkanen, you know, we'll see. Kobe White, you know, we'll see how this all develops out there in the Windy City. But I like the hire for Chicago.
I do too. I really do. I've always liked Billy Donovan. I'm interested to see what he can do with the Chicago team, because right now they're not exactly Michael Jordan par.
Anyway.
All right, let's travel kind of back to the rumor mill and just address the fact that there are rumblings of Mike D'Antoni rumored to be in the running for the 76ers head coach job. Now, as we know, he informed Rockets fans and the organization that he will not be returning.
Well, I mean, they weren't going to have him back anyway, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's always better to bow out a little bit before you kind of get the axe. So kudos to him for playing that one right. But anyway, could he be going to Philly?
So I've heard rumblings, and I've also heard that the Sixers have said that if they do in fact get D'Antoni, or well, let me put it like this: I've heard the same rumblings that they're targeting D'Antoni. If they do in fact secure him, they're going to make and call and listen to all trade offers for their young duo, which we've talked about ad nauseum on this show. And here's what I'll say. If D'Antoni does, in fact, become the coach, and that's who Elton Brand and the Sixers front office decide they want to bring in, they're not keeping both Simmons and Embiid. It's just because it is with D'Antoni's style, it ain't going to work. The question now becomes, who do you trade? Who can you get the most back for? Is there a way, and I'll leave you with this, is there a way for Philly to move Simmons, potentially move Horford's contract? Now, it's going to be a 3-team deal or a 4-team deal because that's a lot of salary to dump. Can they get Chris Paul some shooting and a pick back or two? Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I'm wearing leather indoors and I still have chills.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Because if it were me and I'm D'Antoni, who do I want? Look, if I want to play up-tempo, obviously Simmons gives me more. But if I want Chris Paul with me, Chris Paul and Ben Simmons, that ain't gonna work. That both of them need the ball in their hands. And let's be real, who do you want to have the ball in his hands? Chris Paul, because he can shoot and knows what he's doing. Right? Like, and until Ben has decided that shooting is what I'm going to do, I don't know. Chris Paul with shooters and Joel Embiid, talk about a nice pick and roll combo. You know, you can do some stuff there. So, again, a lot has to happen. A lot has to be worked out. But Philly needs to be open to listening to all potential trade options if, in fact, D'Antoni is the guy they want. They also are looking at Ty Lue as well.
Ah, Ty Lue. What a place in my heart. Wow, well put. And that's interesting insight because I didn't know a lot of what you said. So shows how much I don't have my ear on the ground.
Listen, You got to be plugged in and talk to your sources. I do want to say this before we wrap. On a sad note, or on just a real note, we do know that the Attorney General in Kentucky did not bring charges against all three officers, or it did not bring charges of murder against the officers involved in the killing of Breonna Taylor. And we know this has been an issue that not only the world, but the NBA players were very, very focused on when they came to the bubble. NBPA Executive Director Michelle Roberts just released a statement saying, sadly, there was no justice today for Breonna Taylor. Her killing was the result of a string of callous and careless decisions made with a lack of regard for humanity, ultimately resulting in the death of an innocent and beautiful woman with her entire life ahead of her. Our players and I once again extend our deepest sympathies to her family, and we vow to continue working in her honor and to always say her name. And, again, I'm going to wrap. I don't need to dig deep into this. Y'all all know what's going on. You see what's happening out here. You're paying attention. This is the life that we as black people have to encounter on a daily basis, right? The inability of the state and the powers that be to recognize our basic humanity, right? A no-knock warrant, a woman who you weren't even looking for in the wrong house, you just shot like she was nothing. And again, no criminal charges against the officers because, quote unquote, it was justified, right? And people often say things like the system is broken, the system is broken, the system is broken. And I always say the system is not broken. The system works exactly as it was designed to work. And what we need to do is root out the systemic racism and inequities born from the birth of this nation, right? The ways in which this country was birthed and founded and every subsequent action along the way lead to incidents like Breonna Taylor et al. And it's sad, and I know the NBA players are feeling this deeply, as is her family, of course, and the people in the community in Louisville. And, we just hope that as a society, we find a better way, man. We got to.
Right. Very well explained and well put, as well as Michelle Roberts' statement there too. There was no justice for Breonna Taylor today. And unfortunately, we sit here and we say, I'm not surprised in ways. And it just makes you think a victory today could have changed this fight. It could have changed a lot. And we didn't get that. And I just hope that no one gets discouraged in this fight because of today. There's work to be done. As you said, the NBA players are doing that and more. If not, this should be motivation. So again, whatever your political stance is or whatever you view or anything, it's come down to a matter of
human decency. This isn't politics. This is human decency.
Right. And right and wrong. Just right and wrong. I mean, I just do not understand or know or can possibly fathom when killing another human life has become so casual and nonchalant. So that's always been wrong, and it is wrong. So I just don't understand how these lawmakers make these decisions and sit in a room and actually justify the action that they're about to put forth. So, and I'm sure most of them, if not all, are parents as well. So it just puzzles me to how they go home and explain this to their families. So
all too easy, unfortunately, and the struggle continues.
Yeah, exactly. So
folks, you know where to find us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, at 7footers Pod on Twitter, at 7footers Podcast on Instagram, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Right.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't wanna trap, what some man gon' do? Chevy told me come